Welcome to Feelin Seen with Dean, the show where real confidence starts on the inside. Hosted by Dean Michael. Let's get into it.
Going monk mode did not change my life because I passed my PTA boards, but it changed my life because it taught me something that I had never learned before. How to stop abandoning myself. The funny part is, I spent so long believing that my story ended after I passed my board exam. But now that I'm building my YouTube platform, I can see it was only the beginning because I am walking the same path again. I'm just in a different chapter of my life. Have you worked incredibly hard at something only to fail anyway? Have you ever watched everyone around you move forward while you feel stuck? Because that is exactly where I found myself. When I failed my PTA boards for the first time, I went through every emotion imaginable. I felt left behind. I felt unintelligent, like I was a failure. I thought truly success was reserved for other people, as in, I believed my classmates deserved to pass their exam, and I did not have the same belief in myself that I deserved the same success. And the day I got that failed result, I sat in the misery for 3 to 4 hours. I remember asking myself, why do these things always happen to me? But later that evening, my mindset changed. I reached out to 3 different board prep style content creators for help. And I made a decision that would completely change my life. I told myself, today is the day the old version of me dies. Tomorrow, I will wake up as the most disciplined and consistent version of myself that I have ever met. No more excuses. I am done settling for mediocrity and less for myself. And no more waiting until later to finish that task or the thing we said we were going to do. And after asking these questions, I realized something. The biggest battle was not passing the boards. It was becoming someone who could pass. And that meant confronting every weakness that I had. Most people spend their life avoiding weakness. I decided to do the opposite. I stopped listening to music. The PT Hustle podcast became my favorite song. I stopped scrolling random content. My social media became physical therapy related content only. And the subjects that I hated the most became the subjects that I studied the most. Pediatrics, PNF, manual therapy. Everything that was my weakness became my obsession. For 3 months, I woke up every morning at 6 a.m. I studied for 3 hours. I worked out for 2 hours. And I finished every workout with 30 minutes of cardio. Not because I love doing cardio, but because I needed to prove it to myself. Prove that I was not building study habits, but I was building self-trust. Every early morning, every grueling workout, every intense study session was a reminder that when I said I was going to do something, I would do it. And that self-trust led to a realization that completely changed the way I perceive success. The first time I took the boards, I felt like an imposter. Even when I knew the material, I felt like I was pretending to be a PTA, like I was cosplaying confidence, and everybody else deserved to pass except myself. Then I had a perspective change. I stopped asking, what if I fail again? And started asking, what would the person I am becoming today do? I forced myself to believe I am a PTA. The license just has not arrived yet. I started waking up early, structuring my days differently, living as if the future version of me already existed. Because if I did not believe it first, I would never see it. And the funny part is, I am doing the exact same thing right now with YouTube. I have no idea what the 100 podcast will look like or the 200 podcast will look like. But what I do know is I know exactly who I am becoming. And that's what matters most. Nobody talks about this part of monk mode: loneliness, the silence, the people who slowly disappear, the people who only show up when life is easy. When I failed my board exam, something became very clear. The people who truly cared about me did not need an announcement. They showed up. And the people who were not meant to stay faded away. I do not hold any resentment towards these individuals, but I learned something valuable in the process. Growth taught me to stop chasing people and appreciate the people that are already there. It taught me to prioritize those who prioritize me. And once I stopped looking outside of myself for support, something crazy happened. I became my own support system. 1 week before my second board attempt, I almost quit. I had already taken 3 full practice exams leading up. The truth is, I had failed every practice exam leading up to that point. I was exhausted, and I kept telling myself, you've already done enough. You don't need to take another test. You'll be fine. Just go with what you know. Then another voice showed up. It asked me one question. What if this exam contains information that could help you pass your next exam? And I couldn't shake that voice in my head. So I took the 4th practice exam, and honestly, I felt the same way going into it. I was tired. I was frustrated, ready to be done. And I failed the 4th practice exam too. But that exam taught me something that I had been missing the entire time: breathing. I realized that whenever I got overwhelmed or frustrated, I would stop breathing properly. My entire body would tense up, and I would start making mistakes that I do not usually make. So I started paying attention to my breath. I practiced slowing down, resetting, staying present. And I took that lesson into the real board exam. When I felt the stress creeping in, I would stop and box breathe. I stayed calm. I was focused. And because of that, I performed like the person I had spent months becoming. And I passed. And that is when I realized something. Passing was not even the greatest gift that monk mode gave me. Far from it. I thought monk mode was going to give me a passing score. When I passed my boards, I expected to feel relief and excitement. What I actually felt was, I cannot believe for the first time in my life, I went all in on myself. I succeeded becoming my own support system. I won knowing that finally I deserved my time, and my time is here. I thought this story was just about me passing my PTA board exam. Now that I'm building my YouTube platform, I realize it never was. Because every day I have to apply the same lessons learned. I have to show up. I have to trust myself. I have to be grateful for the process. And I cannot obsess over the outcome. The boards were never the destination, they were the training ground. And the same habits that helped me become this version of myself are the same habits that help me remain this version of myself when dealing with toxic people, difficult environments, and everything life throws at me. Because when you know who you are, other people's opinions stop carrying much weight. When you trust yourself, other people's doubts become background noise. And when you've built yourself through discipline, you stop needing validation from people who never understood your journey. If you've ever experienced people becoming uncomfortable or reactive when you start changing your life, I would watch my last podcast about how toxic coworkers target you. I'm going to link it right here because sometimes the moment you become who you're supposed to be is the very moment people will start reacting to the authentic version of you. So I highly recommend you watch that podcast next, and I will see you there.